crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
All right, Sheriff Arpaio's joining us, one of the longest-serving and most highly decorated sheriffs in the history of the Phoenix area. Of course, got demonized internationally. The UN came after him, you name it, George Soros, Bloomberg. They finally got him out of office, but he's coming on about their years of research into the birth certificate, now conclusive with outside top forensic labs that it's a fake as a $3 bill. So that's coming up, and we'll also look at the attacks on free speech happening nationwide. One of a retired Bergen County, New Jersey detective, Mike Zullo, who's been in studio with us, also has been leading this up for the sheriff in his cold case posse. So that is coming up in the next segment here in about 5 minutes. But I want to be clear. I just read to you out of PC World and others where they have the People's Daily saying we're censoring America, America's adopting our censorship model, and our media is saying it's good to censor the conservative and libertarian press by having a George Soros-run group again. In fact, will you guys print me the Daily Caller and others where it points out that Soros-funded group now, now runs the control of the news. This is so unprecedented. This is an authoritarian takeover. The problem is Trump's about to get in. That's why they've got all these electors being visited at their houses, thousands of letters. You've got media everywhere telling electors who are Republican, tomorrow, don't vote in the Electoral College. It's the 19th. We don't find out what really happened, though, supposedly, until the 6th of January. We may learn earlier, but according to law, it's the 6th. So they're openly trying to overthrow the election right now. On every front, Americans aren't used to true totalitarianism. And now that censorship of the press is hitting, attempts to overthrow elections are hitting, and they're trying to fund groups to go out and kill police officers. I mean, I've got the new Black Panther Party and Black Panther affiliated groups and Soros-funded socialist and communist groups and Black Lives Matter in Austin at multiple rallies saying, what's better than 4 dead cops, 5 dead cops, kill the cops. Again, for total destabilization and the UN-run Strong Cities Initiative. I mean, this is mainstream news. Loretta Lynch says it's the UN advising them. This is a takeover with the communist Chinese in the newspapers telling our government, hurry up and censor Alex Jones. So let's play a clip where Saturday Night Live makes a joke out of all this and, pretends that, they go to people's houses and try to get, that will actually go to an elector's house, try to get them to turn against the popular vote in their states. Here it is.
Look at it.
Ding dong. Okay, I'm narrating this for radio. Lady with her husband goes to the door.
Oh, hi.
Who is it?
It's a lady dressed like Hillary. Hillary impersonator. Say it's Carol Singers.
It's Carol Singers.
Give him $1 and tell him to get lost.
Say it's Carol Singers. And it's one of the electors. It's me. Hillary Rodham Clinton. They make overthrowing the election funny. It's the 70s. And she goes on to say, just say, because it's Christmas, and at Christmas you tell the truth. I know you're an elector. And on December 19th, that's tomorrow, you're supposed to vote for Donald Trump. But bish, he caray. I don't understand this. Not even funny. He's refusing security briefings. He's already a bunch of lies. And so it's all this demonization, all this BS. Listen, I know I lost the election and may never know why. Cough. Russia. Cough. But I still care about this country. Oh, Hillary cares so much. You don't even have to vote for me. I'm cool. Just vote, literally, anybody else. Like John Casey, Tom Hanks. All right, folks, we're going to go to break. This is the sickening evil. And the real propaganda is now on Saturday Night Live, Comedy Central, you name it. They've been caught in the WikiLeaks. All right, Sheriff Joe Arpaio just recently voted out of office on November 8th. And I don't need to tell folks who he is. Everybody knows who he is. Joins us via phone, and Mike Zullo, a retired Bergen County, New Jersey detective who's been here in studio with us, great guy, is the chief investigator on the cold case posse formed by Sheriff Joe Arpaio in Maricopa County, Arizona. And he didn't have to do this because obviously Soros and the usual suspects target you because they ran Obama. But Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Mike Zullo did it. And they had the UN come after him, lawsuits, you name it. Now, years after, they've had top forensics labs come out and say, definitely it's fake. Now, listen, folks, they put it in multiple layers so you know it was fake. We learned later. It's good to investigate the birth certificate, in my view. But they did it just to become this whole honeypot, which is good we covered it, from the fact that we believe his dad was really Frank Marshall Davis. And we know he has all these weird aliases. He converted to Islam. He wears an Islamic ring. All of this is real. He put in his Harvard law review that he edited as the editor that he was born in Kenya. His wife in 2007 in speeches, we played them, said, hey, my husband was born in Kenya, on purpose to then put out the fake birth certificate so they would then get us to basically divert off to that and the fact that his dad was Frank Marshall Davis, the famous communist, would never be discovered. Now, that's my educated view on it. But regardless, I'm not putting down Sheriff Joe Arpaio and the work he's done exposing this, Fast and Furious, you name it. And last week, they did a big press conference that millions watched online. I know because over 1 million watched it just on our platforms here as well. Another 500,000 or so watched it just in clips we played. So people are still very, very interested in this. And Sheriff Joe has done an incredible service doing that, the death threats, you name it, and so has Mike Zullo. But after we've talked to them for maybe 2 segments till the bottom of the hour about that, I'd like to ask Sheriff Arpaio and Mike what it was like to be under millions and millions of dollars every election cycle of Soros and also Bloomberg money. And I've pulled articles from this year where Bloomberg and Soros brag that they've got a stealth gun control program going to deceive the public. So they now admit frontal assaults don't work, so they've got a stealth attack to throw people out of office like Sheriff Joe and other defenders of the Constitution. They're also targeting the Milwaukee sheriff right now as well. So I want to talk about that strategy to pick off folks that are on the front lines out there like Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Sheriff Joe, I want to wish you a great Christmas coming up, my friend.
Well, thank you, Alex. Keep up the good work. It's very complicated, at least with my background. You know, I'm the longest serving sheriff in the history of Maricopa County, 24 years. You know, the feds started going after me, Holder and Obama, 30 days after they took office. Is still around here after all those years. And I was defeated. And doesn't shock me. He pumped in $3 million in the last 30 days. I'm talking about Soros. And then they came out in federal court when the civil judge, I won't get into him, were appealing his findings on racial profiling, but shoved it over to criminal. And they announced the day before the election started that they're going to charge me. And then 2 weeks later, they said they did charge me for a misdemeanor. So you can see there's much politics involved. And here comes Soros, last 30 days during the election, pumping in $3 million in the media. I can go on and on. So it was a little tough race, but, you know, the people spoke. It's not over yet. And I said 5 years ago, when the Tea Party, 250 of them came to my office, said, you're the elected sheriff, will you please investigate the birth certificate? And I don't think I was crazy. I've been a federal guy for 30 years. I think I knew the heat I would take, but I had to do it, and I did. With Mike Zullo, I appointed him to do it because there was no taxpayers' money. A posse works for nothing. I knew I would get heat on that issue, and I did it. And it took 5 years. Well,
I was about to say, people can say whatever they want about you or lie about you or make stuff up. We're all victims of that. You have got, I mean, the biggest heart and guts out there to go through the hell, the intimidation, the attacks, the threats. I mean, it would take 10 hours to cover it all. They certainly were very upset about your investigation. Before we get into the actual evidence, I mean, just your personal gut view of it, why would he say in his law journal that he edited that he was from Kenya, born there? Why would his wife say that in speeches and then act like you were crazy trying to investigate the birth certificate?
You know, I don't know, Alex. I got my opinion, but let me say from the beginning, I said I could care less where he is from. I stick with that. I said we are investigating a forged, fraudulent government document. I said that from day one. I continue to say that. And I said from day one, show the birth certificate or a microfiche, and we'll all go home. That's never happened. Mike Zullo has done a great job, tenacity, and we got some lucky breaks to put the nail in the coffin recently, and that's what I went public on. Had nothing to do with me leaving office, because I would have done the same thing if I was reelected.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you'd have press conferences before and shown what forensic teams, independent groups have said, but then you went further, and we could probably bring in the detective here, and you guys can just pop in whenever you want. And it's just a roundtable discussion here format. But you guys had some of the top forensics labs in the country, and as the detective points out, a lot of these headed up by liberals who didn't want this to be true. And watching your press conference the other day that we covered live, it looks really, really conclusive.
Well, Mike, in answer that, let me just say from the beginning, we went across the pond to a country where my mother and father came from. It's called Italy. And got experts, and also Mike worked on a guy from Hawaii that's an expert. Maybe Mike can explain the recent revelations on his situation.
Sure, Mike. Let's roll the basics out and then come back in more detail in the next segment.
Hi, Alex. Pleasure to be with you today. I think, like the sheriff just said, we put the nail in the coffin with this document, last Thursday. We have 9 points of verified forgery. And what we had to do, and going back to 2011, 2012, Alex, your video that you did initially on this, you were sitting with a gentleman taking the layers apart. That was the very first video I ever saw on the document. And it was the only video I saw for a very long time, because I didn't want to, pollute myself with taking in a lot of information. I needed to do this on my own. And I did see that video, and that video was compelling in and of itself. And we confirmed a lot of those things in our first two press conferences. And we even went further in the second press conference by introducing Reed Hayes, a document examiner from Hawaii, 40-year career. I mean, the man is an instructor, a certified court-recognized expert. And we put information out backing up what we did then. Media went silent. They went silent, and they just went into attack mode. Well, the sheriff and I had been discussing this for quite some time, and we agreed that the only way we were going to be able to pursue this was going to be doing it under the radar. And that's what we did. And as this was unfolding, there are operatives out there that come against this kind of investigation. They do it for political motivation.
Sure, they've been trying to put you guys in jail.
Oh, yeah, I tried. They started to float an idea around about a copy machine being the forger and whatnot, and we had to investigate that, and I make that clear in the video how we did it. But what happened was a turning point, and like the sheriff said, a lucky break. I knew that we had the evidence the first two times, and I knew we still had the evidence. The problem you get with this when you're putting together any kind of criminal case, you have to think about conviction. It's not just enough putting somebody, in bars and behind bars and arresting them. You have to think about, how is this going to conclude? And the evidence was compelling the first two times. A lot of the evidence is what you had in your video. However, I knew that there was so much computer forensics involved that you would never convince a jury. There's too much doubt could be thrown in as to how this may have happened other ways.
Sure. Stay there. We're going to come back. We're going to come back on the other side and look at this as if it was going to be a court proceeding. Stay with us with Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Now, we're only going to spend one more segment on the birth certificate, and then the next segment I want to get into what was it like to be targeted by Soros, who now is going to run, this is mainstream news, the two groups that tell Google, Facebook, and others what websites we can visit. No judge, no jury. communist-style net censorship, actually with the Chinese communists consulting on how to do it. I have PC World admitting it, the Wall Street Journal. I mean, this is just so bizarre, I can't even believe it's happening. But our live coverage of it, it's up on YouTube, was titled, Sheriff Arpaio Proves Obama Birth Certificate Forged. That's the YouTube version with 184,000 views. There's about 500,000 views on our Facebook version of that, and another 300,000 or so on our own personal feed. That's why I said about 1 million views. And quite frankly, they were covering this. I thought, well, it's interesting, but I didn't think people would be that interested. People are super interested in this still. So I'm just very glad that Sheriff Arpaio and others did this because the public asked them to. But just encapsulating this, the lead detective on the cold case posse, Mike Zullo, who was appointed by Sheriff Arpaio, where's the best place for people to go to see the sheriff's investigation for themselves?
Well, Alex, right now the best place is carlgallops.com. He is creating a page that is housing all the information, all the videos, because we know that's going to be able to stay up after Sheriff Arpaio leaves office in January. So we don't want it anywhere where they can take it down. So carlgallops.com is where it can be found right now.
And I also noticed, looking at the Sheriff's Department website, the sheriff obviously is, I guess, still on the webpage, so he's still the sheriff. Does that transition of power go the same way as the president, January 20th?
No, sir, January 1st.
January 1st, so we're only talking about 15 days or 12 days, and a lot of research materials on that Sheriff's Department website, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Wow, so that's all being transferred again. What's the website for folks?
carlgallops.com.
carlgallops.com. Okay, we're definitely going to tweet that out. That is so important. So
well, Alex, we got 1.5 million on my Facebook.
Wow.
So that was right away when we went public on this. So we're getting a lot of reception from the people on Facebook, and I'm going to transfer that into my private Facebook when I leave office. So it's still going to be around.
Well, I would imagine you haven't stopped fighting for 55 years in law enforcement. I don't think you're going to stop now, are you, Sheriff?
No, and thank God that Donald Trump, who is elected, I was with him from day one in July when I introduced him and had the gut feeling. And that day I said he's going to be the next president. And it's coming true.
I had the gut feeling. I had the gut feeling about 2 years ago when he first announced. So, I mean, how soon did you have that gut feeling, Sheriff?
Well, I've been around. I've been the campaign honorary manager for Bush and Mitt Romney, Rick Perry, so I know something about when people run for president. But Donald Trump was different. I caught on to that right away. A lot of predictions he made is coming true. And I admire the man. What else can I say? I admire the way he treated my wife, who had cancer at the time, and kept calling her. So he's a great person, and he's going to make a great president. That's my prediction.
I don't know how he does it because he's so gracious. Every cop that gets killed, he calls the widow. Folks don't know this, but he sends them money. I don't know. I mean, the word is he spent billions of his fortune just on quiet charity, and then he doesn't want anybody to talk about it.
Well, I've been with him many times, introducing him. I know how he is. I flew in his plane. I had a lot of time to talk to him. He loves cops. He loves veterans. He loves the military. He loves the people. And he's going to shock a lot of people. And I'll tell you one thing that burns me up, being a top federal guy for 30 years and sheriff for 24. Now they're coming after me from all directions for doing my job. So I'm getting a little angry after all this. And I'm angry at the media, because they're hiding this thing. How can you hide what's going on with this birth certificate? I can't believe it.
Sir, they take clips of me now, and of course the show's video too, but they never show video because it would jump cut. You'd see it was edited. They have high-tech folks that I can't even edit this good. Edit stuff I say together that sounds crazy, and they put it on even Fox against me now. Even Fox is like, I mean, I'm telling you, it's a total attack on this country, and they seem to have gotten worse. What do you make of them trying to overthrow and threaten the electors to not follow the votes?
Well, I was an elector in 2000 with Bush, and boy, they tried to go after me, trying to get me to switch my vote. Here in Arizona, you can do that. But, why would I ever do that? Why would anybody do that when they were committed? They're Republicans, and I'm sure here in Arizona they're not going to switch, and I don't think they are across our nation. But, Hillary and that bunch, they can't accept defeat, so they got to play every game they can play to try to put garbage into
Sheriff, let me ask you
fight.
this question. It seems like things have gotten nastier on their side, like they've just gotten completely insane. If you agree with that or disagree, can you elaborate on the psychology, the criminology? Because they really, look at the WikiLeaks. They act like cartoon villains in those things. They're so nasty, I can't even believe it.
But, Sanders and Hillary both went public nationally against me to get me out of office, of course, with all the money from Soros and everything else. But I can't forget Sanders. I took his wife to my tent city. She didn't like it, and then the husband didn't like it, and he made some threats on me. He said, well, when I become the president, Joe, watch out. You're not going to have, I have the power. I looked at, of course, my response was, he'll never be the president. But these people came after me nationally. And I think I have, when Soros went after me, I thought it was over the illegal immigration and not legalizing marijuana. I think he had a devious motion. I got a little information to prove it. One day I will. He wanted me out of office because of the birth certificate. That's my opinion.
Of course.
So he ganged up on me.
They have Comedy Central makes fun of you and goes, he's the guy claims there's severed heads in the desert. Doesn't he know there's been thousands of bodies dug up on both sides of the border from Texas to Arizona?
Well, they don't want to know about it. They played an illegal immigration game. But, when Trump becomes president, I think things are going to change a little.
Sure. Just over the border of El Paso, they've dug up more than 500 bodies the last couple of years.
Well, we have the third largest county in the country that, I'm the sheriff of, and we see the people coming in. I predicted a long time ago that the drugs are involved. I was the director of Mexico City, and I believe in the wall. If it isn't just for illegal immigration, it has to be for the drugs. All the drugs coming into our country come from Mexico, and Donald Trump played that out a year ago.
Sure, it's
so
not going to stop 100%, but it's going to slow it down. I mean, that's why China built a wall. It's why the Romans built Hadrian's Wall. We're going to go to break. When I come back, I want to get into the birth certificate, but also where you see this country going. But briefly, Trump and others had asked Trump to maybe make you the head of Homeland Security or Border Security. But you've already served 55 years. Obviously, you're still, out there helping. But what do you think of this Marine Corps general he put in?
I think he'll be pretty good because he worked in Central South America. I worked in all those countries, too, when I was regional director. And he believes in putting people in jail. And, of course, I have all the tents. They'll probably take them away, but I put tents up 24 years ago.
That's my next question. What's going to happen when they release these thousands of criminals out of your jail? I mean, I don't need to predict it, a crime explosion. Let's talk to the outgoing sheriff, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, straight ahead, and his chief deputy on the cold case posse. Well, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, longest-serving sheriff in Maricopa County there in Phoenix, just an invasion zone of drugs and crime and murder. The feds have put up signs a third of the way into Arizona saying don't go into these areas, national parks, you name it. It's too dangerous. And then the media just says nothing's happening. Routinely, they'll find a bunch of severed heads, and they'll even shoot American citizens down on the Texas-Mexico border. And then I'll cover it, and national news will say, Jones has a new conspiracy theory making up severed heads, and it'll be in the local news. I mean, there's 100,000+ people killed the last 8 years in Mexico in the drug war. So Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Mike Zullo, former New Jersey detective in Bergen County for several years, heading up the cold case posse on the birth certificate. His phony's a $3 bill. And again, it just shows the fraud. I mean, we don't know what's going on exactly. The point is that he says he's from Kenya, then he wouldn't be eligible, and then he says we're crazy. He won't give us a birth certificate for 4 years. When he does, it's fake. So just condensing this, Sheriff Arpaio, obviously you're, like you said, 1.5 million views on your site, on your video. Ours has millions. The reason that, again, is exciting is the average CNN show doesn't have 1 million viewers. On our own platforms, we're getting more views than they do. So it sounds to me like folks want to continue to hear what you have to say, Sheriff, I think now more than ever.
Yeah, I think they were always interested, but because of the media blackout, sometimes the word could not get out. And thank you, Alex, and for those others that still get the persons will take hold of it, have hearings. If they can't have hearings on deflated footballs or steroids, you would think they would have a hearing on this most important subject facing our country, and probably one of the greatest frauds ever perpetrated in our country. So why not get to the bottom of it and see who's behind this situation?
Wow, Sheriff Joe, that is an incredibly good point. Thinking about this, they have Deflategate and all this other, quite frankly, diversionary issues. And, President Trump, I get the fact he doesn't want to be vindictive, but Hillary is trying to overthrow his election. She's involved in all this stuff. Her foundation's ongoing. I'm sorry, the president, has to let the attorney general go after Hillary because it's his duty. It's not vindictiveness. Can you speak to that? And I mean, what, as a former Fed and as a somebody that's been involved in these prosecutions, involved in all these cases, what would you do if you were the president?
Well, I think I would do what he's doing. He has a great attorney general, by the way. I have to commend that appointment. I met with him a couple of times just recently when he was in Phoenix. So he's making some great choices. Great choices he's making. So I can't comment. I do wish somebody would look into the birth certificate, though, whether it's criminal or take it before Congress and let the people understand what's really going on. So we're going to submit this before I leave office, at least to Congress, and get it out of my hands. We did our job for 5 years. Not much more I can do, but just by chance, luck, and the hard work with Mike, we were able to conclude this.
Sure. Mike, your full press conference is up on Sheriff Arpaio's Facebook and other sites. It's up on InfoWars as well. But just in a minute or two, the new developments, the top labs you had look at this and what they found.
The certified document examiner for lab is over in Italy. They are digital forensic specialists. And what we decided to do here was let the evidence guide us. We weren't guiding the evidence. You never guide the evidence in a criminal investigation. And what we would do is we were making discoveries in the document. And that break we got was when Mark Millar, the gentleman who makes my videos, was making a video for me so I could explain what I was seeing to the sheriff. And he realized the source certificate, the Omni birth certificate, was slightly canted a degree or two off. And once he made this adjustment, this document began to unlock and it started to collapse on its own weight. And I took those findings, sent them across the world. I sent them to Italy. I sent it to Hawaii, 2 different document examiners. I stepped back and I let them both perform analysis on what we have found. And both of them, 2 different disciplines, old school document forensics, new technology, digital forensics, came to the same conclusion. The document is inauthentic, and the things that we have found are not explainable by any other method than cut and paste digital lift. It's as simple as that.
Well, look, I'm no rocket scientist, but we do video editing, not to see, but we know about layers. We know about documents. When you do a digital document, you have to flatten it, and they didn't flatten the document, or you wouldn't be able to remove the layers. And I went to forensics people, and they said, yeah, that's 101, but they were too scared to come on. That's why I'm glad organically you and Sheriff Arpaio were able to go out and do this. But, I mean, you see what happened. Criminal attacks, lawsuits. I mean, they're definitely scared of this, Sheriff.
Yeah, I wonder what they're hiding. Maybe they're worried how far up it's going to go. But our whole trust, once again, was to investigate a forged document, and look what's happening today. Why don't you just come up with a microfiche, show the original birth certificate, and get it over with?
Well, absolutely. I mean, notice real ones today are all yellowed because of the acid in the paper, and then the one they've got's not yellowed. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on. I mean, it'd be like if you had a newspaper from the 1960s and it wasn't yellow and it didn't have holes in it, you'd know it was been recently printed. I mean, it's how you know at shops when they have, Titanic newspaper, reprinted from the day after the Titanic, New York Times, it's white paper because it got printed on modern paper. It's white. Any newspaper that's old is going to have rot holes in it, like Pulp Fiction novels. Everybody knows that.
Well, Alex, very quickly, we didn't disclose everything again in this press conference. This was an executive summary. We have other things in the document. There are a variety of color combinations that should not be in the document. I mean, there's a host of stuff. We're not just stopping here. And just to add to the sheriff's point, and I'd like you to conclude with the sheriff, his whole life story is fascinating. We're not stopping. We are going to do whatever we have to do to put this into the hands of Congress and push for an investigation because, one, it's not mandated. It's detrimental to this country. We want legislation that this never happens again in this nation.
I totally agree. By the way, Sheriff Arpaio's a hard guy to get on. He's so busy. So anytime he'd like to come on and really go over his life, his adventures, as a true lawman compared to what we're getting today, I would love to have him on. But I got to say this. I've been somebody who's more of a libertarian, been critical of some law enforcement and critical of government. But I got to say, I've been really surprised the last few years to see law enforcement and the military leading the fight with courage to expose the corruption and really being persecuted for it because, it's been the military and police overall that have led the charge against tyranny. And I've really been positive to see, just the fact that they can't be intimidated and that they've been there spreading the word about what's happening. So that gives me a lot of encouragement. And then I saw Soros and other groups fund hundreds of millions to Black Lives Matter and other groups that are openly calling for the death of police officers. It really lets you know how sick these groups are. Sheriff, does it even blow you away that Soros and others have gotten away with doing things that if I did them or you did them, we'd be SWAT teamed?
Well, you're forgetting another element. That's called the Department of Justice. They're the ones coming into all these cities, including mine, and putting monitors to run these police organizations. This is a very deep problem we have with this current Department of Justice. I can't say too much about them because they're trying to prosecute me. But I never seen anything like this, and I've been around 55 years all over the world. This is unique, and we have to do something about it. And I think the next administration will do something about it.
Well, just say it, Sheriff. They act like an outside force. It's like a takeover. It's not America.
Yeah, led by our own government. That's the problem. Led by the Department of Justice and their philosophy and the president. I'm not trying to criticize the president.
Well, it's a fact. In closing, sir, if you'll come back soon. Did you see her press conference about the UN and the strong cities to run the police advisory boards will be run by the UN? Did you see that?
Well, that's scary. I didn't see it, but that's very scary.
It's incredible. Well, we want to commend you, Sheriff, and we want to commend Detective Zullo. Thank you both, gentlemen. And Sheriff, I know you're a busy guy, but in the new year...
I'm available, Alex. Call me anytime.
All right, thank you. Be safe. Wow, that guy's got a lot of courage, and so does Mike Zullo. I tell you, say what you want about Sheriff Arpaio. They've demonized him really bad, but that guy's got a lot of courage. We'll be back with other news we haven't covered. Stay with us. Everybody knows that I'm a Christian, but I am not somebody that sits there and throws stones in glass houses. I don't hate anybody unless they're aggressively out attacking innocent people. That said, it is well known that the whole transsexual movement started in the last 60 years was basically pushed by groups of people that were preying on a lot of folks, in many cases, to confuse them about their sexuality. And a large portion of people that end up getting sex changes end up being very unhappy, very depressed, and committing suicide. And anytime you go and try to confuse and sexualize children, as they're now doing in public schools across the country, it is basically pedophilia. I don't care if it's heterosexual, transsexual, homosexual, whatever it is. Facebook with 50 different sexual preferences or identities is just meant to confuse the species. And I have the government documents, the admissions of this. And you see the cover of National Geographic transgender issue. The cover of National Geographic upcoming January issue has sparked outrage online for featuring children questioning their genders and spotlighting what they call a gender revolution. And this is the state coming in to confuse your kids when they're naturally discovering things when they're young. You're not teaching them about sex because you're not supposed to until they hit puberty. The state's coming in and doing it. The article's titled, Making a Man, Dangerous Lives of Girls and Rethinking Gender. The publication is dedicating their entire first issue of 2017 to the single topic of shifting landscape of gender. That's how you kill honeybees. That's how you kill fire ants. You go in, you put chemicals in to confuse the genders. This is a weapon system. I put this in my film Endgame, and in Endgame 2.0, not to be confused with Endgame 2, and it shows the government documents in the 60s where they said they do this, according to the press release. And it shows a little boy who thinks he's a girl. And he says the best thing about, this is I don't have to pretend I'm a boy anymore. The best thing about being a girl is now I don't have to pretend I'm a boy. Internet users were quick to share their disappointment over the magazine's editorial decision. But see, Nat Geo, again, is total social engineering, anti-gun, anti-family, eugenics program. And they want to sexualize your children and get in there and get at them for this programming. This is an admitted program. China would never allow this. They execute you if you're homosexual. I'm not saying you should do that because they see it as a destabilization program. Fidel Castro would put gays in prison. But the left loves them. Just like they love Islam, who won't let you do any of that. Because societies collapse once you go down this road. Camille Paglia is a lesbian. She'll tell you that. It's a fact. Are we saying society's going to collapse because of lesbians or gay people? No. It always goes to this next. But this time, we've got the government and social engineers pushing it to openly bring us down. They don't want you having kids. They don't want you having families. They want you alone, so the state is your father, your mother. Now, getting into some of the news that Arpaio was talking about, here's an article. Report, 82,000 criminal illegals, 84% with felonies, serious misdemeanors, to be released. That's what Obama's been up to. This is the crime wave of criminals around the world running here. Washington Examiner. I mentioned this article from Slate. Whatever happened to Michael Bloomberg's anti-gun crusade? They admit in this article they've gone underground and don't admit they want to take the guns, but that their plan is to ban guns. I mean, this is so sick how they talk about this like we're stupid and don't see it. Then we've got, what's China been building in the South China Sea? A bunch of rocket and missile bases, including medium-range missiles, to take over the South China Sea, breaking their deal with the globalists. Meanwhile, we're told Russia's our enemy. There's a meme going around that shows 50,000 people in an arena for Trump, and it says a group of Russian hackers meet to overturn the election. Overturn Hillary. France faces its next big test as France's election looms. The average French person in polls says they want to leave the euro. They said, quote, we never voted to enter the euro. Another AP article, homeless across the country fall victim to synthetic marijuana and wander around like zombies. Yeah, marijuana has a lot of good medical purposes, and I'm for decriminalization, but not total legalization and pushing it because I don't put you in prison for it, nonviolent offenders, but the new stuff's so strong, folks, it turns people into zombies. Sure, a highly motivated person might use it who's too high-strung. It might help them. But you use this weaponized stuff, you're just going to be like a zombie. So that's some of the news on that front. Before I get to some of this other news, do you understand that I read 6 different mainstream news articles that were like, it's great. We used to criticize the communist Chinese for censorship, but now we know it's the right thing to do. They coined the term fake news and are going to help us ban Alex Jones. I mean, the story alone is how our media just labels things now. Like communist censorship's communist censorship. What are they doing advising Facebook, Google, and Twitter? What is Facebook doing a year ago hiring former commanders in the Stasi, the most famous secret police, to censor Facebook? I mean, it's just crazy. Then we get hit by the biggest denial of service DDoS attack that one of the top internet service companies says they've ever seen, with a bunch of other attacks thrown in that are, by the way, ongoing against InfoWars, Prison Planet, and our shopping cart. That's why when you go to InfoWarsStore.com, it takes about 5 seconds to load. The site's completely secure, completely safe. It just has to redirect all the fake traffic out of it, or it brings the site down so that you just can't get on it. InfoWarsStore.com. We have, ladies and gentlemen, between 50 and 20% off on everything. Combo deals, colloidal silver, $9.95, highest quality. The new Super Blue, super powered toothpaste. It's got colloidal silver and it's got the iodine in it, the true iodine. It comes out white, turns blue. Real iodine's blue. We've got Living Defense. A lot of stuff's about to sell out. Super Male Vitality, Super Female Vitality, Secret 12, Bio PCA, Bio True Selenium. It's all there. InfoWarsLife.com. The Deep Cleanse is back in stock. But I want to sell out everything before the end of the year, obviously, just like car dealerships do, because there's big taxes on inventory. So get your knockout sleep aid. It's incredible. Get your products, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll free. And this is key, because if for whatever reason they hit it again and for some reason they're able to bring it down, folks have already been organically on the web saying go to 888-253-3139, 7 days a week, 12 months out of the year. 365, you can call, and we will, up until 5 every day. It's our crew here, our operators. We got 6 of them, 7 of them. That's 7 total, but usually it's about 6 on duty. And then, but after that, it rolls over to a great service I've got in Austin. I've had for 17, 18 years. Jesus Communication. They'll take your orders right there. So InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. You can also support our sponsors. You go to InfoWarsTeam.com. That's the great longevity line of over 400 different supplements. We get about 8 to 10% of the profit there to help fund our operation. When you order there, you can get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip. Sign up to be a distributor. You get big discounts. It's great products as well. Find the lowest prices on the longevity line of products at InfoWarsTeam.com. So that's a separate system, or call 888-789-9277, 888-789-9277. And again, we could not do any of this without you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers. We have Hillary, Obama, the EU, the Communist Chinese saying censor us, and they're trying it right now as a test. Separately, CIA meddled in hundreds of elections, Ron Paul on Russia blaming. Totally made up. They had the Communist Chinese and Saudi Arabians bragging they influenced the election. I'm trying to get the media to focus on that. And the Daily Mail is telling you something I told you back when it happened in 2003. Saddam was CIA. He was told to invade Kuwait. He was told to attack Iran. He was set up. He was westernizing Iraq. The Saudis wanted him taken out. He was set up and double-crossed. Our troops aren't bad. They were manipulated. And when the CIA interrogated him, they didn't even know all the classified stuff. He told them that he was CIA, that he was hired to do all this, that he was set up. And the CIA commander that interrogated him 10 years later admits, we were wrong, it was all a giant setup, and we let the Shiites execute him. 10 years after the tyrant's execution, the CIA agent who grilled him reveals the shattering truth that everything the U.S. thought was wrong. If you read deeper, folks, it was a setup. He was CIA trained in 1954 and 55 in Egypt. He tried to assassinate the communist leader there. It was overthrown. Then they convinced the Ba'ath to take him as their security head in 69. In 79, he staged the CIA coup against the Ba'athists. Then it was set up as a Western base. They started letting women go to college. Women didn't have to wear burqas. Then he was ordered to attack Iran. He lost 700,000 people. Iran lost 2 million. Then he was told to invade Kuwait and set up, and he didn't know why. There you go. But don't worry, HBO has made-for-TV movies about how bad he is. Saudi Arabia, the Wahhabis, the Jihadis, the Al-Qaeda base, took out their enemy. He thought when 9/11 happened, he'd join forces with the U.S. to take them out because he was their #1 enemy at the time. That's Daily Mail. Infowars.com has a lot of other news we haven't covered, especially on the attack on free speech. Defend us, spread the link. God bless you all.